This content is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised. Flannel by A. B. Richards. Ha! This one's perfect. I held up the red and black plaid flannel shirt to show Sue. She rolled her eyes and sighed. You know, Tip, when Julia set the theme for her Halloween party as Enchanted Forest, she meant things like fauns and dryads, Sasquatch at the outside. I can promise you she did not mean lumberjacks. Not so fast there. Who saved Little Red Riding Hood and her grandma from the big bad wolf? Nobody's going to get that. They'll just think you're being a contrarian, that your costume is scary because you're here to chop down the magical forest. My turn for an eye roll. You're way overthinking it. I folded the flannel shirt over the tan pants I'd already picked out. You got everything you need? I think so. I should be able to alter this dress. Just wish they had a white feather boa. Halloween store will probably have one. I gotta stop there and get a fake axe anyway. Great. We can go to that Thai place afterwards. I'm starved. I nodded, letting her walk ahead of me to the Space City Savers thrift store checkout. I sighed inwardly as I watched her hips sway with each step. She wasn't exactly my girlfriend. It was more of a friends with benefits arrangement. Lately, though, I'd found myself wanting more, but I didn't want to rock the boat. If I asked for more, I might find myself without a friend or benefits. At least we were going to the party together. That had to count for something. The people walking by in the park had no clue I surveyed them from behind a bush. There weren't very many, because this seemed remote. A man with a big dog jogged by. I didn't like him. The dog barked at me, just once, as they passed. That's what woke me up, the dream dog barking at me. I looked at my phone. 3 a.m. Now that I was awake, I had to pee. I peeled back the covers and sat up. Something wasn't right. The room seemed colder than it should be. I just had the furnace inspected. Surely it wasn't broken. My skin prickled as if hostile eyes pored over me. Hello? Who's there? I waited in tense silence, then called out to my voice assistant. Lights. Every light in the house came on, and I squinted in the sudden glare. There was nobody else in my room, not even my cat, Mr. Pickles. I left all the lights on as I got up to take care of business. When I was done, I made a circuit of my home, checking that all the doors and windows were locked. They were. Mr. Pickles was curled up on the kitchen counter, directly under the vent. Warm air gently ruffled his fur. He stretched and yawned when I came in, then tucked himself back into a ball. Heat seemed to work everywhere but my bedroom. I'll check it out in the morning. Perhaps the air filter was dirty. I grabbed an extra blanket from the linen closet and climbed back into bed. Still left the nightstand lamp on in the nightlight mode, though. By 4:30, I'd given up on going back to sleep. I got up and went to the living room and flipped on the TV. As soon as I got settled with a fluffy throw pulled up to my neck, Mr. Pickles jumped onto the couch and settled between my knees. We watched reruns of some old black and white westerns until I fell asleep. I shambled like a zombie through work and had a nap when I got home. After I ate dinner, I laid the flannel shirt and tan pants out on my bed. My costume from 2 years ago had bright red suspenders, so I got those. I bought a long and bushy fake beard at the Halloween store, so I put it above the shirt collar and set the axe alongside it. I had hiking boots, so I was good there. A knit beanie, that's what I'm missing. I thought about what Sue had said about people not getting the Little Red Riding Hood connection. Perhaps a pelt? I searched online for faux fur. I'd make one myself. Except that faux fur was $40 a yard at the local fabric store, and there wasn't time to get it online. Maybe one of the $5 strips of fake fur trim? I could glue it on the axe and add some fake blood. No, too gruesome. Didn't want to get thrown out of the party for glorifying animal abuse. What about a flower? Didn't Little Red get in trouble for straying from the path to pick flowers? Poor thing, out there all alone, lost in the deep dark woods, being stalked by the big bad wolf. She doesn't see him, but she knows he's there. Her heart pounds with fear. Her breath comes in ragged gasps as he creeps closer. I shuddered. Well, that went dark. Thanks, Brain. I was hoping to get some sleep tonight. Why are you like this? I again consulted the interwebs and found multiple stores with knit beanies for sale. I drove to the closest one, and within a short time, my costume was complete. I did a double take when I opened my front door. I almost didn't recognize Sue in her forest nymph costume. Her skin was a pale green, and instead of hair, Spanish moss tumbled down her shoulders from behind pointed ears. She had woven fall flowers into the cascade and attached a papier-mâché bird to the shoulder of her dress. Sue had removed the pencil skirt from the silk bodice and replaced it with yards of tulle, looking like some elfin ballerina. "Come in." I stepped aside, and she squeezed her poofy skirt through the doorway. Sue frowned at me. "Are you okay? You look super tired." "No." I shook my head. "Been having weird dreams, and I haven't been sleeping. I think I've gotten 5 or 6 hours since I saw you on Wednesday. Do you still want to go to the party? I can drive." I held up my keys. "I'm fine. Wouldn't miss it." I picked up my axe. "Let's go." A yowling came from the other side of the house. "Mr. Pickles!" Sue rustled down the hall and disappeared into the guest room. There was a small courtyard between the master and guest bedrooms, and I'd put up a catio for him so he'd be safe outside watching the birds, and they'd be safe from him. Is he stuck? She returned with the purring cat. As she got close to me, though, he hissed and leaped out of her arms. "What's up with that? Mr. Pickles adores you." She watched him run down the hall. "I don't think he likes the beard. You know cats don't tolerate change well." We got in the car and headed to Rex and Mina's place. "So, you said you've been having weird dreams. What are they about?" If I told Sue the blood-soaked nightmares I'd been having lately, she'd jump out of the car at the next stop sign. I shrugged. "Well, it's hard to say exactly. I'm in the woods and it's dark and scary." Sue's eyebrow lifted, and she playfully smacked my arm. "Like Little Red Riding Hood?" "More like the big bad wolf. I am the reason why the woods are scary." "Maybe." I sat sideways in the chair, my legs stretched out in front of me, crossed at the ankles. Kinda hurt my back, but it just seemed right to sit like that. I wasn't really into true crime, but I could listen to Sue talk about it. But then again, I could listen to her talk about anything. "Guess where Jenny and I are going tomorrow?" Sue bubbled. "Grocery store." Rex sipped his mojito. Sue shared a look with Mina. "Villisca! In Iowa? You know that axe murder house? We're going to spend the night there for Halloween." "Ew." A woman I didn't know curled her lip. "Why would you want to do that?" The man she was with put his arm around her shoulders. "Come on, Sydney. Let's go over there and talk to Gloria." "Did you see her latest TikTok?" He gave an apologetic smile as he turned her around, guiding her to another knot of people. Sue leaned forward. The murders were never solved. There's a paranormal group we're going with, and we're hoping to contact the spirits of the victims. 8 people were hacked to death in the middle of the night, and more than 100 years later, nobody has any idea who did it. I shrugged. Everybody's got to die of something. Sue cocked her head and frowned at me. What did you say? I was sober enough to recognize that I should not repeat what I said. It's a terrible way to die, for sure. She glared at me for a long moment. I looked down and took a sip of my rum and coke. Ha! It was me! I'm the Villisca axe murderer! Rex grabbed my axe and stopped. What the hell, dude? You brought an actual axe? That seems kind of messed up. Somebody might get hurt if they didn't know it was real. Wait, what? Sue slapped her hands on the table. I was with you when you bought a plastic one at the Halloween store. Why didn't you bring that one? I don't know. I mean, kind of felt dumb carrying a fake one. Yeah. I trailed off. Go put it in your car. Mina growled at me. She was angry and her heartbeat pulsed alongside the cords that stood out from her neck. Fascinated, I watched for too long. Now, she crossed her arms. I shook myself. Sorry, of course, I didn't mean any harm. I locked the axe in my trunk and tossed the rest of my drink into the bushes, acutely, embarrassingly aware that even the smallest amount of alcohol often short-circuited the part of my brain that filters out inappropriate remarks. I stuck with the sparkling water for the rest of the night. Sue was standoffish after my axe murder comments. I couldn't exactly blame her, but her being upset with me was almost a physical pain. I wanted to beg for forgiveness, but I knew that would only push her farther away. While she hung out with Rex and Mina, excitedly chatting about ghost hunting and murder houses, I sat by the fire with some of Rex's friends I barely knew, half listening to them blabber about football. While they droned on, I thought about the axe. How it would shine like a beacon in that inky forest of my dreams, lighting my way among the dark, wet trunks. The crunch of leaves and twigs under my boots, the smell of earthy, rotting leaves and hints of resinous evergreen, notes of copper that sang through my nostrils and electrified my brain. By 2 a.m., the football crowd had either passed out or left. I patted the pocket with my car keys. You about ready to head out, Sue? She hesitated. You sure you're okay to drive? I could get an Uber for both of us. I raised an orange can of flavored water. I'm fine. I've only had 1.5 rum and cokes, and that was hours ago. She didn't look too sure and seemed to be considering her options. All right. She turned to Rex and Mina. Thanks for having us. I'll send you pics from Villisca. You better. Sue and Mina hugged each other, and Rex clapped me on the shoulder. Thanks, good night. I waved, car keys in my hand, as we shuffled out the door. Sue fell asleep in the car on the way home. Or maybe she just didn't want to talk to me and was pretending. Emotions jumbled inside of me. Remorse, shame, sadness. Anger flickered at the edges. I pulled up in the driveway and pressed the garage door opener before gently shaking her shoulder. You coming in? She yawned and stretched. I probably shouldn't. Early flight. I'll ping you when I get back, okay? Sure. Safe travels. It was almost a week before my phone vibrated with a text from Sue. Tip! OMG! You know that true crime podcast I listen to? They just did a story on the lumberjack killer. He hunted in Austin, but lived with his mom here in Houston. When he was convicted, she donated all his things to charity. What if you got one of his shirts? SMH, what's the diff? It's just a shirt. Tip. Do you want to wear a murderer's shirt? A dead murderer? Shirts don't kill people. People kill people. He's dead? Stop. He was beaten to death in prison. This is serious. If you have his shirt, it's got murder residue. Maybe that's why you have bad dreams. Could be haunted by a serial killer. Murder residue, haunted shirts. Seriously, why would you even think this? I fingered the hem of the flannel shirt. Weather right now was cool but not cold, and this shirt was just the right weight. I'd been wearing it almost constantly since the party. In fact, it fit me perfectly. This chick is starting to get on my nerves. I wish she'd just go away and quit hassling me about my clothes. Besides, I'd gotten used to the dreams now. They weren't so bad. Sue sent a video clip. I almost didn't watch it, but she might come to my house and badger me if I left her on red, so I clicked play. A man, I assume the lumberjack killer, in red and black flannel shirt was in a room not much bigger than a closet. 3 chairs and a small table. A police interrogation room. He sat sideways, back against the wall, legs stretched out in front and crossed at the ankles. A voice from an unseen man said, "Tell us about Liza Stanton." The killer shrugged and grinned at the off-camera speaker. Everybody's got to die of something. It was like Sue had physically punched me in the gut with this video. I blinked at the now still image of the leering murderer on my screen as nausea throbbed in my stomach. Clawing at my shoulder, I couldn't get that identical shirt off my body fast enough. "Going outside to light fire pit now," I typed. Sue replied with a long string of emojis. I picked up the shirt and some paper from the recycling bin, then went out to the deck. The fire pit wasn't large, so it didn't take much wood to fill it. I crumpled the paper and tucked it around the bottom edges. As I turned to go back in to get the fireplace lighter, sun glinted on the axe that lay across the chaise lounge. I picked it up. The handle was hard and smooth in my hand, the steel head heavy, and the blade sharp. I ran my thumb across the edge, and a thin line of bright blood appeared. Perhaps the blade was thirsty. I smeared the blood on the cold steel and smiled. This was a powerful tool. With the axe in one hand, I could hold a life in the other, like a fragile butterfly. I could set it free, or I could crush it. And in that moment, I was God, all-powerful, terrible, merciful, supreme. I set the axe down. Think I'll hang on to the shirt a little longer. Sue will be here, sooner or later. She's always been obsessed with true crime, hasn't she?